It's kind of amazing seeing the Baldur's Gate 3 fanboys backtrack on what they were saying earlier in the week. Remember back when it had like a 97 on Metacritic and people were bragging about it? Ooh, it has a higher Metacritic score than Breath of the Tears of the Kingdom. They were trying to say it was the most highly reviewed game this year. And people like me were coming out saying that like, what about this, and this? The number of reviews, the fact that there were several reviews still in progress, the fact that like it was a niche game to begin with, like there were so many things to note it. There were so many things wrong with that Metacritic score initially that I was not surprised at all to see that it dropped down to a 96 this weekend, right? Like I was anticipating that, and I will come out and say right now that it'll drop even further than that. But this is an interesting situation because we saw the PC gaming community, we saw the steampunks come out and try to convince us that like this is one of the best selling games of the year, that it's a more highly reviewed game than Zelda, that it was going to outsell it, and it was going to be one of the best games of the year, that it was going to win game of the year, like quite handedly. And now that the checks have cleared and that like the YouTubers aren't really shilling it anymore, it has fallen completely off the face of the earth. We have a general idea of how much the game has sold, about like 5 million units, which is respectable, right? Like I find myself hesitant to declare the game like complete crap because I have no interest in playing it. I'm never gonna play it. Like I don't want to like to talk about like negatively about the game and the developers and stuff like that because I don't really have any ill will towards them. But like what they tried to pull here, what the marketing team tried to pull here, what the fans tried to pull is unacceptable. In that they tried very hard to push this narrative that this was a game that was a game of the year contender, that it was like, this really innovative, fresh, original thing. One of the best games ever made. And it simply doesn't live up to that reputation. It simply doesn't live up to that hype, right? I was very critical going into like Pikmin 4, right? I was very open about how much I didn't like the game and like, how I felt like this and this. And in the end, like I still like it, but I didn't come out here and try to say, "Oh, this game, it's one of the best ever made. It's the best in the series. It's the best strategy game ever made." No, because I respect other games that exist. The games that I know are better than this. Like I never tried hyping Pikmin 4, right? In that way. I was very critical of it. I was respectable. Like I was responsible about this, right? I tried, talking about the positive and negative aspects of Pikmin 4, right? Like we didn't see that with Baldur's Gate 3. Like over the past week, we have seen everyone try to do damage control, try to write things off, trying to ignore stuff, whether it's like downplaying the fact that the game is woke, that its quality, its reviews, like the narrative that they pushed, right? Like so much of the stuff they've claimed over the past couple of weeks is just done, right? There was a time where people were saying this game was completely bug free, which we now know is not the case, right? There was a time when people said the game had a particularly good story, which we know now is not the case. It falls off after Act One. Like people are getting annoyed by like the relationship stuff and like the way the developers handled certain things, and well deserved, right? There are problems to talk about with this game, but in that first couple of weeks within launch window, I didn't see any of that. It was a lot like Street Fighter 6. It was a lot like Diablo 4. It was a lot like Final Fantasy 16, in which like there was a period of time at launch where people refused to admit this game had any problems at all, right? And they were simply using it to weaponize against Nintendo fans for no reason. And now they're trying to do this weird thing where they're like trying to pretend there's some like game journalist conspiracy to downplay the game or something, like playing into like the anti-woke stuff. No. No. If anything, game journalists are like the ones sucking this game's dick the most, right? Like, I don't understand how so many people seriously tried to push this nonsense. That this game was like something spectacular. I never cared for it. I never respected it. And I'm glad to see more and more people are starting to notice this thing. And I think by extension, I'm glad that we're starting to see this like be called out for like other brands, because this is a problem with a lot of things, right? This happened with Hi-Fi Rush. This happened with like uh this happens like regularly, right? Cyberpunk Edge Runners, like this happens regularly when like a company needs a product to do well, when they need to hit those milestones, when they need those numbers, they're gonna rely on the shills, they're gonna rely on the influencers, they're gonna rely on the YouTubers, and this was exactly the kind of situation I'm talking about. When I talk about media blitz campaigns and like trying to convince as many people as possible that this game is like worth checking out because like it was not organic. It was not an actual reaction to like a great product that came on the market. It was just a bunch of people trying to sell you a product. And more people need to understand that this is a problem.